Do you believe that gender roles exist?
I think increasingly gender roles have changed and probably will continue to change. And I'm fine with that as long as people are able to identify with gender roles that make them comfortable. So I can talk about my personal experience and my personal preferences. On some level, obviously, as a person who has a career and I enjoy being an independent woman, that is not a traditional gender role. But at the same time, I love being a wife. I love coming home from work and cooking a warm dinner for my husband. I love cleaning. Like, I actually love a lot of the so-called trad wife duties, and I do them on a regular basis. It's a huge part of my life. It's a huge part of my identity. I love femininity. I deeply, deeply, identify as someone who's feminine, and I love it. But it's not for everyone. So if you're a woman and you reject all that, I think you should have the right to reject all that and live your life in a way that makes you comfortable and happy. In terms of, the traditional male gender role, I like it a lot. I like the idea of a man who wants to protect his family. The whole thing about a man needing to provide, I'm less concerned with that, for lack of a better word. I mean, it's nice. My husband does provide. But when I met him, he was couch surfing. He came to LA to be an actor. He had been a professional baseball player. That career ended. And he was kind of lost. He didn't know what he wanted to do. And he was still lost and didn't know what he wanted to do when we got married. He was working as a bartender. And what I love is that we have been building a life together. And now he has a career.
What drew you to him when you guys first met?
That ass.
It was the ass.
Okay.
Like
Well, he was a
Some
baseball
jeans,
player,
yeah.
right? So, I mean, the classic, they have big
sorry.
butts.
He does have a big butt. And he's Cuban. Like, it's I don't know if it's a
Graham's
Cuban
got a
thing,
big butt,
but-
too.
I do not. Mine is...
No, you got a big butt.
No, I do not.
Oh my God, I'm so inappropriate. Okay, but no, obviously what first drew me
Yeah.
to him was the fact that I was attracted to him.
Okay.
But then I got to know him, and he's just, I thought he was lying about who he is because he's like so good looking. I was like, no, you're probably a massive,
Yeah.
But no, he ended up being so kind, and he's definitely on some level more sensitive than I am, which you would never expect. But his personality traits complement mine, and we work really well together as a team, and we understand each other and deeply respect each other. And that's what ultimately convinced me, like, this is the guy I want to marry.
We had a divorce attorney on the podcast recently that
really?
said the most successful relationships he sees are complementary opposites.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funny because when we first met, I asked him what he's into. Like, what are your interests? Do you like news and politics? He's like, no, I don't follow the news at all. And I was like, okay, what are you interested in? And I'm thinking in the back of my head, please don't say sports. Please don't say sports. And then immediately he says sports. And I'm like, this isn't going to work out. So, like, we have different interests. We definitely have different characteristics and personality traits, but we also have some commonality. Like, we have some similarities. And, he loves to go dancing. I love to go. I was a dancer. I trained in ballet for like 17 years. And now we're taking salsa classes together. So there are things that we share together as well, interests and things like that. You can't be completely different. But in terms of like our temperament and our personality traits, I do think we're opposites, and I do think that helps.
How equal do you think men and women are in 2024?
I think they're perfectly equal at this point. Like, I know I'll probably regret saying that, but I don't think that there's a problem with women getting discriminated against. I know there's like a big controversy at the moment about Margot Robbie not getting nominated for
I heard about that,
an
yeah.
Oscar for Barbie.
And Barbie, it was like Ken. It's
Yeah,
like,
and Ken did. Yeah. But who cares? Like, to me, what matters is, are women not getting hired simply because they're women? And I don't think that's the case. Women have been moving up the economic ladder. They're moving up to executive roles at some of these major Fortune 500 companies. There's been a lot of progress for women. And if there's any indication that we're sliding back, obviously I'll speak out against it, but I don't really see that happening. I actually see a different crisis happening that's impacting men that I'm worried about.
And what is that?
It's the like loneliness crisis, the
Education.
They call it the friend session,
What's that?
meaning that men are becoming more and more atomized. They're lacking any friends or personal relationships. That worries me. It really does. And I also have seen that men are graduating at lower rates. So I was never one of these people, and I think this is also rare, to be clear. I was never one of these like feminists who cares about improving the lives of women or fairness toward women and doesn't really care at all about, you know, the opposite sex. I care about everyone. I want everyone to live good lives. I want everyone to thrive. I want people to be treated with dignity. And I don't want men to be lonely or in crisis.
Why do you think that is the case? Why are men lonely?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. There have been some theories that I think make sense, and I think it should be studied a little more. But one of the things that's come up is the fact that with changing gender roles and with women being able to provide for themselves and not needing a man to provide for them, it's been a little bit disorienting for some guys because they don't know what their role in society is. So I think there might be some truth to that. I think that while it was important to draw attention to the treatment of women, especially in the workplace during the whole Me Too phenomenon, there might have been some unintended consequences to it in that, and I kind of hated this, there were some women who were kind of speaking out on behalf of all women, and I disagreed with what they were saying. So I know that I personally don't want, and I'm so happy I'm not dating anymore, I'm married, I don't have to deal with this, but the idea that a guy needs to ask me permission for like everything, like, may I kiss you? No, I don't. You need to feel the vibes, you know? And
But that's what I think is lacking.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but like I agree with you, but I also think social awareness disappeared.
Yep.
It seems as though a lot of the common sense things you could kind of sense by body language. This
Yeah.
person's not into it. They're not interested in me. They're bored. They're not into the conversation. I feel like it's lacking.
But also, that's true, and I think it's part of the atomization, the fact that we're all like behind computer screens all
Yeah.
day or on our phones. And so you really do need to make an effort to connect with people in person and put the technology away. And I make an effort to do that, and it has definitely made my life better. But I think that the other thing that ended up being a little bit disastrous is if a guy went for a kiss and you weren't into it. Back in the day, okay, you're not into it. You reject the kiss. It's a little awkward, but you all move on with your lives. Now, with some, it's not all women, not even half of women or a huge portion of women, but some of the more outspoken ones during the Me Too era, they would make that out to be like a sexual assault. And it's like, no, that was not a sexual assault. Like, that scares guys. Like, that scares guys in trying to date or trying to get to know women. And that's, look, based on anecdotes, based on conversations I've had with male friends, that has come up. And I think there might be truth to it. I don't know how broadly that, you know, opinion is held among men, but I just want people to consider maybe it'd be better to be kinder and more understanding to each other and not assume ill intent by everybody. I think that's the biggest issue. Everyone assumes ill intent by everyone else, whether it be the opposite sex, political opponents. People aren't necessarily out to cause harm. There might be a misunderstanding. So try to be more generous, I guess.
I think I agree with your husband. I know you're talking about this, that I like to believe there's good in everybody and that somebody has good intentions, even though on the surface it might seem, what on earth are they doing? But I think deep down they truly want to improve the situation.
I think
That's what
so
I
too.
like to believe.
Yeah, I didn't used to believe that.
Yeah.
And that was when I was a pretty miserable person. But once I made an effort to get to know people who disagreed with me, I realized, no, I was being a little too paranoid. And I think I might have bought into narratives that aren't true.
And also, people don't get ideas out of nowhere, like malicious ideas out of nowhere. It's usually extraneous situations impressing those ideas into them.